The UK construction industry is a pretty big industry. Currently, there are over 3.1 million people who work in that sector, and that represents about 9% of the UK working population. Those are big numbers. In this video today, I'm going to outline something called the CIS scheme, which stands for Construction Industry Scheme. I'm going to talk about the main players, what happens when it comes to taxes, what your main roles and responsibilities are, and what the scheme actually covers. Hi folks, welcome to another episode on I Hate Numbers, the channel that's there to improve your financial awareness, help you make more money in your business, improve your money mindset, save tax and time. What a wonderful combination we have there. Now, first of all, let's think about the construction industry and certainly the CIS scheme, which is going to be my working title. What does that cover? That covers everything from site preparation, doing the groundworks, digging, construction, putting scaffolding up, construction, electrics, plumbing, the whole works. That's pretty much quite a wide remit. Exceptions for those people who do not have to register for the scheme are architects, surveyors, those who provide support services like kitchen facilities, catering facilities. They are not covered by that scheme. Now, having a situation where you are covered by the scheme, you've got two main parties involved. You've got a contractor. Now, a contractor doesn't have to register for CIS, but the danger is if you don't register for CIS, when you get to have your invoice paid by your client, you suffer deductions off that if you're not registered. So my advice is register. If you're a subcontractor, i.e. you're providing services to somebody else, whether that's an individual or a company, you must register. Again, the downside is, A, it's the law, you've got to do that. And secondly, if you don't do so, you will potentially suffer up to 30% of the invoice that you're raised. Now, the responsibilities of a contractor and a subcontractor are such that the contractor is acting as an unpaid tax collector, and when they receive the invoice from the subcontractor, having verified them with HMRC, they must make the appropriate deductions off that invoice. The rates will vary from 0% if they're what's called a gross certificate holder, up to 30%, subject to what the tax records are of the subcontractor or subby that they're using. They must collect that and they remit that to HMRC on a monthly basis. Now, if you are a limited company, the offset rules are slightly different. You offset that against any PAYE. If you haven't got any, you put that to one side and you claim that at the end of the year against any corporation tax or other tax liabilities, with a potential refund coming back to you. Self-employed individuals involved in that process will effectively account for it on their tax returns at the end of each year. The next thing you've got to consider is, having decided what the scheme covers, who it applies to, we talk about the roles of the contractor and subcontractor, then we've got to think about what happens when an invoice is raised, and it covers things like labour charges, travel, subsistence and accommodation. Now, I've seen many people make this same mistake where they think CIS deductions do not apply to recharges of accommodation, travel and subsistence, and that's complete rubbish. CIS is not applicable to materials that are provided, not applicable to things like plant hire, but however, if you do charge travel, accommodation and likewise, then CIS is levied on that income, that fee. If not, then the person who's making the payment to you is acting incorrectly and they run the risk of actually being caught by HMRC and paying fines and penalties. Now, the last thing to bear in mind is, having decided about contractors and subcontractors, the type of sectors that are involved, from plumbing, electrics, groundworks, scaffolding, by the way, if you don't provide labour, is accepted, but scaffolding with labour is covered by this scheme. You could be a private house builder. Now, that's fine. You don't have to apply the CIS scheme to your client. However, if you're using the services of somebody to help you with that building job, then they must be registered and you've got to make sure you do the appropriate deduction. We've got all that in place. And the last couple of things just to wrap up with, I mentioned something earlier called a gross certificate holder. So if you want to avoid having CIS taken off your income, then you must register for what's called a gross certificate, and that's all dependent on having the requisite level of turnover over a 6-month period. Check out the show notes, folks, for some more detail. If you don't, then you must suffer tax at the rate of 20%, or if your records are in bad state, or if there's some compliance issue with HMRC, you can suffer 30% at source. Folks, I hope you found this useful. I'd love it if you could smash that subscribe button. If you feel there are people out there who could benefit from this video, I'd love it if you could share it. Any feedback or comments, I'd love to hear from that. Apart from that, guys, have a great week.